So this week we're looking at how to prepare drawings for a presentation. Up to now we've been looking at different elements on how to work on a 3D model in Revit, but one important thing to do is always know that that 3D model ultimately is going to be two-dimensional drawings. Sometimes we'll have 3D views in those drawings, and we'll look at that today. But I want to talk about title blocks and how to modify them and set them up, how to label and number the sheets, and how to bring views from your model onto those sheets. So right now I'm just in a simple architectural template. I have nothing actually drawn. So I'm going to go in and just make a very simple rectangle building. That's all I have. And if I go to my 3D view, you can see there's nothing special here. But for now, this is all I'm going to use to show you how to bring these drawings onto sheets. One thing you'll notice here in the project browser is that we have a sheets folder, and there's nothing in it right now. So if I right click and say that I want a new sheet, I can select a title block. Now if you're working in an office or if you spent the time yourself, you can customize and add title blocks here. We're going to use the default E1 sheet in a horizontal layout. You can see it here in all its glory. It's probably a little outdated, at least in terms of aesthetics. And I can come in, this is actually a family, so I can edit this sheet to look a little different. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to just remove this image logo. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to create a new block of text. Click, and I'm going to name it ProList.digital. I can move this text. I'm going to say I move it down here so it sits on this line. With this text, I'm going to say, I want it left justified, pluralist.digital, and we can align that. I can see that those two are aligned, and maybe I can take these blocks of text up, get rid of this border, which is just kind of extra. I'm going to come in and bold the heading. I'm going to delete a lot of these have like frames around them, and I know that I'm not going to have a lot of consultants, so maybe I'll get rid of those for now, and it's just a design exercise, so maybe it's just my information there. This box here is for revisions, essentially. Like if I were to release a preliminary 50% CD set, I might put the description there and the date it was released, and then if I were to release an update to that, oftentimes you'll find you'll have a permit set, a construction set, an addendum, construction revisions, and you'll build kind of changes into this and explain where the progress has come. I'm going to hope I never need to issue, say, 20 different sets, so I'll bring this table smaller. I'm going to go around and delete that border again, and I'll drop this down. Here you'll see that we have text, but really this is a label. So what this is a dynamic piece of text that actually pulls data from the project. I'm going to leave it with client name, that's fine, but I'll left justify, project name, left justified, sheet name, left justified, the sheet number down here, left justified. So now I can try to organize this a little bit, what I feel is a cleaner manner. And all of these things will automatically update based on project parameters I have in my model. Similarly, the drawn by, check by, the dates, all that stuff, and the scale here. If I put multiple drawings at different scales, this will automatically update to the noted scale. So not everything is 1/8 inch, just refer to the noted scale. So with those simple changes, I've just cleaned it up a little bit. I'm going to load it back into my project and overwrite everything here. So on my sheet, I can come down and say that this has been approved by me. It was designed by me and checked by AAA. If I come down, it was drawn by me, and I can rename this. Maybe I want this to be the A200 sheet, and you can see it's updated there. My sheet name, this will be floor plan, and then we'll say today's date is the day it issues. So now if I go down and look at this data, the one thing we don't have is owner, and if I come in and just change, we'll say client XYZ. The project name is New Tower. So this data now is populated through. So if I were to create another sheet, it would remember that it's client XYZ, and actually it would just automatically number and say we're going to look at A201 or A210. You can see it's put the date and time on this. So I want to bring a drawing onto this sheet. And if I look at my floor plan on level 1, there's nothing special here, but let's just add some dimensions to it. And we can go view and make a section here. We have the elevations already in place. So let's see that I want to pull all of these drawings onto my sheet. So here I'll go down and expand my sheets, go to my floor plans. I'll drag and drop level 1 onto the sheet here. You can see the kind of the view box is expanded to capture all of the elevations. So I'm going to move the elevations up closer so it's taking up less room on the sheet. Like so. That should be good. I can deactivate now. I'm going to right click and deactivate the view. To get into a view, I just double click. To get out, I right click and deactivate. When I have a view selected, I can edit the title bar down here. So I'm going to take this. So here's a weird one. With the view clicked on, I can edit the name. Let's call this floor plan 1. And it says, would you like to rename the corresponding level? So that would rename that, and I'll say no. I'm going to call it something different, but in elevation, I don't want it to say floor plan 1. I'll just say level 1. So with this selected, I can edit these lengths. I can edit the name. With it unselected, I can just move the text bug. Like I can move the drawing name there. So it's a little bit tricky to figure out initially that you sometimes have to have the drawing selected and sometimes you don't. So let's take that and let's make this sheet wrong and not just do just the floor plan, but let's put the elevations on as well. So here is the north elevation, and I can double click to get into the view and drag my lines over so that we're not off the page. We don't need this to extend that far. I don't want the section to cut all the way through, so I can click this little break line and make it so the section's a little bit out of the way. I'm going to right click and deactivate, and by clicking on the drawing I can change, and by declicking the drawing, clicking nothing, I'm going to put my north tag there. So now you can see that on the floor plan the elevation tag has been populated to say that, oh, your north elevation is drawing number 2 on sheet A200. Similarly, if I wanted to put that wall section there, I can go to my sections and drag section 1. You can see this blue dotted line. That's just to show that the drawing I'm positioning here is lined up as far as a ground level with the drawing next to it. So there's the section. So click it, move that drawing tag, and I'm going to drop this north one down until I get a blue line to show me that these two are aligned. And here in my section you can see drawing 3 on A200. So this is how I'd start building a sheet that depicts everything I've modeled in the project. You might notice right now that if I hover over this, there's like a dark black line, and that's the view box. Again, the view box. And here you see some of that. So if I come in, this is just the section, and this little light bulb here is hide the cropped region. I'm going to hide that. That would never print, but I don't like seeing my sheet with it on. Another thing that you might want to do is we have elevations 1 and 2 here. We really don't need to see elevations 1 and 2 there. So if I come in, I can click and turn off just the note. The level themselves stay. So this is one way to toggle those on and off. And if I wanted to, I could drag these levels out so they match up, so that when someone was looking at the set, they know that these levels are consistent across the drawing. One more thing we want to look at. If we're in the floor plan, I'm going to come up to my 3D view here. Now, this is essentially an axonometric drawing. So I'm going to click up here on my 3D navigator to the top corner. And what that does, it brings me at 45, 45, 90, the standard axonometric drawing. And because this is an axonometric, it's a measured drawing, and I can change the scale. We don't really see any difference here, but if we drop it on the sheet, the scale matters. So if I come down under 3D views, I have a view called 3D. I'm going to right click it and duplicate it so that I can rename this Axon 1. The thing in the bracket is my default 3D view. It'll always be that. And when I want to come over here and maybe I'll look at a different view by holding Shift and middle click, I'll always have the same axon set up. I don't want to mess with this. I'm going to put this into shaded mode, and I'm going to close that. And over on my sheet now, I want to put that axon view right here. You know what? Actually, let's put it up there. So I'm going to drag my axon 1 and put it right up here. And you can see it fits pretty well. I'm going to right-click that click the drawing, left-click, and just move that text bug. Try to get these lined up over there. So there's my view. If I wanted that to change size, I could double-click it and change my drawing scale down here. So now it's, you can see it's smaller. I can make it much, much, much bigger. 1 inch was a pretty good size. This is a little different than, let's say, a 3D view. I mean, technically this is a 3D view, but if I come back to my floor plan and I go to Views, 3D View, Camera, I'm going to click and drag a camera looking at the object, this building, which is just a rectangle. I'm going to make it go into shaded view again, and over here I'm going to use the full navigation wheel, which will come out. This is the small one, full navigation wheel. Here we go. And I'm going to orbit up so that I see this thing in 3D perspective. So this is no longer axonometric, and you can see my scale is perspective. This isn't a measured drawing. This isn't something you could take a ruler to and figure out how big this is. Let's go ahead and close that. And on our sheet again, I'm going to hit Control-Tab and go back to the sheet. I now have 3D View 1, and I'm going to drop this on the sheet and get the titles aligned. Well, now this is a little small, and if I double-click it, I can't edit the scale of this, but I can click the view boundary. And by doing that, I can say size crop, and I can say scale this drawing. And so instead of being 8 inches, let's make it 18 inches, and the height automatically adjusts. I'll apply that and say OK. I'm going to right-click now, right-click and deactivate that view. I'm going to move this 3D view over. I'm going to click my text tag here and drop it down. Maybe we'll drop this one down to a line. And if I wanted to, I could just bring this one over there. You can still see I have that view border there, so I'm going to double-click into my drawing and turn that off. Right-click, deactivate, and then I can hit ZE to zoom extents. And here you can see one sheet with multiple types of drawings on them, drawings that reference each other, and drawings that are both axonometric and measured, and just perspective. So that was one way to pull together a sheet.